Why I only play old games?
Hey guys, do you ever just wanna... or...
Warcraft 3.
or even...
Oh!
Because I do. Like, all the time. The truth is, I haven't been excited about a new release for a very long time. The last new game that I was really anticipating would have been like Outlast Trials or the anniversary edition of Beyond Good and Evil, a game which came out in 2003 by the way, and even that I was anticipating with caution because, you know, it is Ubisoft and nobody wants to see their favorite game ruined. When I have spare time, when I want to chill and just immerse myself in a different world, I go for games that are like 20 years old or somewhere around that. If you've watched my channel at all, you will know that I'm somebody that appreciates the finer details in games. I really love worlds that feel alive, eccentric characters, cozy environments. I like beautiful things like art, and of course, my favorite, I like clothing and accessories. More and more I'm finding that modern games have nothing to offer me, and I do want to preface this by saying that this is strictly my opinion, but you know, you would think that with the technology that we have now, all of those things that I mentioned earlier could be improved upon.
Well, they do have lots of outfits. It's just that you have to go to the store to buy them. So there's the outfit that you get from pre-ordering. There's the outfit that you get from buying the game from GameStop. There's the outfit that you get from buying the deluxe edition. Then there's also the, what's the other one? Oh, the Game Pass only event. Yeah, the Twitch drop event. Yep, there you go.
Tenfold, but alas we are given bland worlds, sometimes a lecture in politics, and the erasure of femininity in gaming. The last point in particular is something that I, as a female gamer, really hate to see, because in the industry's attempt to become more inclusive and conscious of the issues that women deal with when it comes to depictions in media, they've actually gone and made
Genshin Impact over-sexualizes its female characters. Do you want to know why they over-sexualize the female characters? It's because a lot of the girls like doing that because they think the characters are cute, and it's because the guys want to fuck the characters. Like, it's actually, like, I always find these articles to be very weird because it's just like this open denial of such an obvious reality that every normal person can clearly see, plain as fucking day. But we have to pretend like it's not there.
Femininity inherently evil and sexualized. Through different companies' actions, we're being shown that beauty and beautiful women have no space in modern gaming, that they're just too much. Aside from that, their portrayal of
the reason why I've always thought, and this is like kind of a, this is like kind of like a bad opinion, maybe, but like I think that the reason why you have this happen is actually not entirely because of women. It's because of men that are like, the way that a lot of men attract attention from women is by being subservient and obedient. And I think that it's like basically by being simps, but like not simps as in like a, oh, nice dress, like, you know, do you need help with, you know, like me getting something from a shelf down, but like, you know, trying to like protect them, etc. Like white knights, basically. And I think a lot of these guys are like closet weirdos. And so they over-exaggerate and they overplay things in order to make it seem like they're an approachable, safe guy to be around for girls. Whereas I think like an average guy, like a normal guy, just is like open and honest about it, and it's not a problem. And I've seen, yeah, it's like it's an overcompensation that I think a lot of these guys have because they don't know how to act in a proper way. It's 100% men trying to cater to women so they can get some. Abso-fucking-lutely. Women can pick up that weird energy. They can. They absolutely can. And so it doesn't even really work, but that's why they keep trying it. Honestly, it's a rare tweet. Yeah, better than an incel, better an incel than a cuck. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's, I mean, why be either one, right?
It means to be a strong woman suggests that we need to be able to physically overpower our male opponents. The greatest example of this for me is Abby from The Last of Us 2, who is not only the least relatable female protagonist I've seen in like any game ever, she's also said to be extremely unlikable from the start for what she does to our beloved Joel. The game tries its best to make you sympathize with her by telling you her part of the story, but the combination of her unrealistic build and her actions throughout the game just make me resent her. And yes, it is an unrealistic—
Well, people just aren't going to like the character, right? I mean, if you make an ugly, unlikable character, people are going to not like them. It's just crazy how, again, it's like it's a caveman that has to rediscover fire every time a game releases. Of course nobody wants to see that shit. Why would anybody want to see that? Yeah, I didn't play that game. Like, I never even played The Last of Us Part 1. You know, that was in my WoW era, so I never did that. It's trash, still sold like millions. Yeah, because The Last of Us 1, The Last of Us 1 was like such a foundational game. It like really kind of, it was like a, it was like the proof that you could make a game that was not just like a combat game. It was basically like a narrative storytelling game and have it be very good. So yeah, it's the birth of movie games. Yeah, exactly. It was that. It was like basically the I don't know, like the proof of concept for like those types of games.
Build. I'm sorry, but we are in a post-apocalyptic world. Even if she did have access to like top-of-the-line gym equipment in her commune, I doubt that they could ration enough greens and protein for her meal prep to allow her enough time to even get close to that physique. You would need some post-apocalyptic steroids, which sets an unhealthy standard, by the way, to make it make sense.
Right.
But no, the industry thinks I'm an idiot because I'm supposed to say, oh, great, a strong woman, because there's nothing other than huge muscular arms that could mean a strong woman. Going back to an old game, I'll compare Abby to Jade from Beyond Good and Evil. Now, this game originally came out in 2003, and the protagonist is actually more of a tomboy, but she's still very charming, and the game encourages you to find ways other than physical fighting to progress. It has great stealth, she's brave, she wants to expose her government for their evil doings, just a very likable character and someone that you could root for. She looks pretty and somehow is in no way sexualized. Weird that they could do that, right? Speaking of
they have plenty of, I mean, everybody's going to sexualize a character. I mean, people sexualize animals. Like, I mean, you're going to have a person, like, you put a person out there, they're going to sexualize the character. They sexualize Pokemon. Like, and they even have, like, I mean, there's like the green Pokemon, there's Lopunny, and there's Vaporeon. There's even like a tier list of sexualized Pokemon. Gardevoir? Yeah, that's the one that I'm thinking of, right? Yeah. So, I mean, this is just what's going to happen. It's not like this is a bad thing. That's just the way it is. You missed your point? No, I didn't. The point is that the point that she was making was that the character was made to be attractive, and then it's counterbalanced by people not wanting to be like having the character sexualized. Like, a character can be attractive but sexualized. I bet there's plenty of Rule 34 on this character. There is on every character almost that's even mildly attractive, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing.
Characters, let's talk about Concord. Aside from the fact that none of the characters are appealing in any way, and I do mean male or female, they're also just poorly designed. There is no personality to them, no depth, nothing that would inspire me to, I don't know, want to cosplay them, for example.
See, and I think that's like such a huge like baseline. Is like, would you see people that want to dress up as these characters? Abso-fucking-lutely not. That's such a crazy benchmark, and I think it's such a good idea.
I mean, half of them look like they're a ripoff of something that already exists. Sindel from Mortal Kombat has certainly seen better days. You compare these to heroes from other hero shooters, even the free-to-play ones, and you can see that there's a massive difference. Like, these are beloved characters. People have cosplayed these. You know, they're memorable. People that haven't even played the games know who they are and would likely know them by name as well. Whereas
that's true with Overwatch.
Concord's heroes are at best like 800 V-Bucks Fortnite skins. And you know what? Even Fortnite skins have more personality than what they've created here.
They do.
We know by now that when something like this gets any sort of criticism, the industry will tell you that it doesn't matter because it's the opinion of straight men, so it doesn't count. Which
well, that's fine. Well, here's the thing, right? Is like, if you want to make a video, like, here's the truth, is that while there are girls that like playing these games, I guarantee you that the amount of people that are playing Space Marine 2, it's probably going to be a bunch of guys. It's guys. Like, that's it. It's guys. And I don't think they necessarily have to be straight. I'm pretty sure lots of gay guys think it's badass too. It's like not really, that's like two different spectrums in my opinion. But like, yeah, So if you make a game that's intentionally designed to alienate the largest audience of people that play video games, you're going to have an upward battle when you're trying to sell that game. This is common sense.
By the way, great job ignoring and vilifying like a huge chunk of your audience.
Yeah,
However,
exactly.
when I as a woman express my opinions and say that I don't like it, I explain the issues that I have with it, I will be told that I'm just being a pick-me girl,
Right.
pandering to the men that don't like it. Give
Of
me
course.
a break. A dragon break. You're telling me straight up that a woman is incapable of coming to that conclusion on her own without men telling her that that is the way.
Well, of course, that's exactly what they're saying. These are the same people that said the reason why voter ID laws are racist is because black people don't know where the DMV is. They don't know how to use the internet. Like, yeah, no. I mean, like, true. Absolutely, that's the reason. No, go back, watch the VOD. I didn't believe it either. I didn't. Go back, watch the video. We uploaded it yesterday onto the Clips channel. It was crazy. It's the same people it is. They're awful. Just awful people.
You know what they call that? So yeah, instead of arguing with you and getting called a talentless freak,
I don't care is a huge labor of... Oh, right. This is the Concord developer.
actual quote from Concord developer, I'm just gonna go and create a new Minecraft world. So as I have said, beautiful women in gaming seem to be an absolute no-go nowadays. And we see this in
it's because they're trying to make the characters like modern. I think it's actually guys that are pushing this because they think that's what women want. And the reason why they're pushing it is because they don't know how to act around women. I think that's the real reason. Like, they don't know how to act, they don't know how to treat women, they don't know how to talk to them, etc. Like, it's just like, these are people that think that the way that you talk to women is, like, different than the way that you talk to men, in a way. And it's like I don't know, like, I could go on about this for, like, 30 minutes. About how, like, there's, like, this loser culture of tone policing that's done by people that don't understand how basic interactions are done. Please don't. I don't want to go. I'm not going to go as far into it again. I think I've talked about it before. Probably those pick-me artists. Yeah, exactly. It's overcorrecting. Yeah, they're like overcorrecting. They're trying to say it in the right way. Very, very weird behavior.
Star Wars Outlaws. It feels like the developers literally went out of their way to diminish this character's looks, especially when you compare her to her face model.
No, they didn't. The game was just garbage. Nothing about this game was good. Yeah, no, it actually, I think this is really no, I played it, I tried it myself. No, everything about the game is bad.
Really did her dirty. And in their attempt to make this character less attractive, I actually think that they made her look not human. People don't look like that. Of course, the game is currently receiving backlash for a lot of other things,
don't like it.
Mainly how it feels so unfinished and broken, but aside from how she looks, it's also the fact that developers are held to these quotas at all. So they were, quote, pushing for a black or female lead in a Star Wars.
What's this here? We have a Star Wars game telling a story with a female lead is long overdue. There was a point in development for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order where devs were pushing for a black or female lead, only to be told no because Rey was the lead for the sequel trilogy. This bizarre reasoning that Star Wars can only have one female lead character led to the creation of Cal Kestis, yet another male character. So who's Kay Vess and why is she important? Kay is already being described as the female Han Solo. Do you want to know what I think? I think Cal Kestis was a loser. I think he was. I think he was such a loser, annoying. Like, I thought he was such a bitch. Like, Ahsoka was way cooler than he was, number one. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, other characters. Yeah, I just thought he was just, like, such a bland, generic, boring character. I didn't find him interesting at all. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I just didn't. Like, I didn't find anything interesting about him in any way. He seemed like, insane take. Yeah, he just seemed like, John Star Wars. I don't know. Like, that's really about, like, I felt that way with a lot of the characters in that story, at least playing through the second game. I just thought that it was so just like fuck it, was just sucked. Like I don't know what you want me to say, it just sucked. It was just boring. Yeah, it was like generic. Like yeah.
Game. Now, what this tells me is that the character and the story don't matter as much as their identity. So this is why we're no longer getting well-written and actually interesting, strong female leads in games. Women have become a box that needs to be checked.
Yep.
We can sort of see this in the kind of criticism that games that go against the current are receiving as well, like Black Myth Wukong. An issue that some reviewer had was that they didn't come across any female characters in the beginning of the game. Now, there are female characters in Wukong, but if you don't meet them straight away, that is bad for some reason.
I don't know. I thought this was the biggest self-report of games journalists that we've had in years. Because, like, there's a lot of female characters in the game, but they don't appear until later in the game, so it means that whenever they reviewed the game, they didn't play the whole game. Like, that, like, 'cause it's obvious, right? Like, that's such a huge self-report.
We're not letting developers tell a story how they want to tell it, how it's meant to be told. We need to dictate how they're telling these stories so that they will fit our standards. In the year 2000, 24 years ago, Diablo 2 came out. Now this was years before we had any of these new ideas and standards. The game's opening act centers around the women who were forced to leave their monastery because of the Demon Queen and Dario. These women are warriors themselves or rogues, perfectly capable of holding their own, but they do seek the hero's help, which can be male or female depending on your class, as they are being overrun by their corrupted sisters. The first mini-boss is a callback to one of the main classes in Diablo 1. Then we have the Countess, which is a really clever historical reference to Elizabeth Bathory, or one of the most prolific female serial killers of all time. Now, this fits the world perfectly, and above all, it's just great for Act 1. Finally, you face my favorite boss in the game, Andariel, the Maiden of Anguish. I go back to Diablo 2 all the time because it feels like you're actually part of like a really dark and interesting story.
I think the problem, like, if you want to dial it in, I think the problem is that when you try to dial in stories that are from old games, the stories feel like they're made with like an intrinsic sense of creative vision. And I think that now all stories are made with like a lot of like baggage, right? Where it's like you can't show certain things, you can't have certain types of interactions. And like there's so many guardrails that are put on video games now that I think that it creates a point where the immersion just simply isn't there. Yeah, there's like a lot of cultural baggage to the games. And I think that's why games like Black Myth Wukong, or, you know, I can think of like 10 other games that are kind of the same way, are like a breath of fresh air in a way, because you can do whatever you want to do. Dragon Age Origins really felt immersive. Yeah, it's like you can't get immersed in a game when you're constantly being reminded, like through like very subtle character interactions, that these interactions are being done in a way to like reinforce a societal norm or a cultural expectation. Like when I start seeing that in games, it starts to get very like, I stop believing that I'm in a fantasy world. Does that make sense? Like I stop thinking that I'm actually in a fantasy world, and I start thinking like, oh yeah, I forgot, like these people make these games have this viewpoint. It's cumbersome. Yeah, it is.
None of it feels forced. The characters don't appear to have been added for the sake of any quotas or checked boxes, and it's all very natural and organic. I know in the past there were, of course, games that had, say, over-the-top depictions with female characters, and an example that is often brought up is Mortal Kombat 9. But the thing about this is, everything in Mortal Kombat was historically...
Well, you've also got to think about if you go to an anime convention and you look at the girls cosplaying, you know what they're cosplaying? They're cosplaying stuff like this. Like, what do you think, girls don't want to be attractive? What? What? Like, it's again, it's a caveman rediscovering fire.
over the top. Like, we're talking literally pulling
Yeah.
someone's spine out or feeding their spleen back to them. I
Exactly.
don't know, I made that one up, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was real. Like, a whole rating system had to be created because of these games. So, really, I don't know if I would see it as like a valid complaint. Like, it's there, I get it, but also...
Well, it's retarded. You have a game where you can pull people's head off with their spine intact. You can pull their throat out. You can cut them in half. At the moment that you have a character with anything larger than a D cup, this is somehow over the line. What the fuck are we talking about? What's going on here? Like, where's the priorities? This is crazy. And she's not even real. It's not even a real character. It's not a real person. It's like, and I think this is what's so crazy, right? Is like, for me, as like, and I don't even think I'm a normal guy. I think I'm very much a weirdo. But like, do you remember that one post that people made of like that girl that like some guy took a picture of this girl, and like the girl was really hot. And I was like, this is weird because it's a real person. And like people are like, yeah, that's true. It's like, I don't know about you guys, but like, am I the only person that can obviously tell the difference between, oh, wow, this is weird because it's a real person and consent isn't being offered, versus, oh, it's a video game character, of course she's got big boobs. It's obvious, right? Like, I mean, I'm not crazy, am I? Any normal person would. Yes, any normal person would. Of course. Yes. Like, I don't understand where we're coming from here. Many guys don't understand consent. Many guys don't understand consent. Honestly, I think the answer to that is yes. I do. I've had a lot of female friends over the years, and I think that a lot of them don't really understand consent very well. Not fully wrong, yeah. The problem is that consenting. It's definitely a problem. If you mean by men by raw numbers, sure. I think that the majority of men do understand it, but I think that there's like, I don't know if it's like a double-digit percentage, but I know that like just based off of like girls' experiences online, almost every girl has had a problem with like some guy who doesn't understand what consent is. Creepers don't understand it. Yeah. It's a self-control issue, not a consent issue. I think it's a Venn diagram. And like, yeah, you want to talk about that, like, I don't know. But I do think it's a huge issue where it's like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes when we have these conversations about topics like this, I feel like I'm doing like that meme where it's like Hitler's bad and everybody's like, yeah, true. Like, doubt, like, can we get an L in the chat for slavery? You know, like, I feel like I'm making these like statements that are like just so obvious, but it's like huge amounts of people don't really understand it at all, right? It's not that men don't understand consent, it's that some men don't care. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I had to explain what rape was to a 30-plus man the other day. It was insane, the thought process. We were both drunk, so it was okay. I mean, I think if you hook up with somebody and two people are drunk and they hook up, I think it's extremely nuanced, but it's probably not rape, right? I mean, like, let's be honest. Like, hooking up with somebody, like, let's not try to muddy the waters with, like, actual real rape, right? Like, you're talking about, like, you know, like, violent stuff. Like, that's totally, totally different. Yeah, drunks, yeah, having drunk sex is not rape. And this is the problem, right? This is the problem. Where it's you have people that, I've said this before, people that are profoundly weird losers that have no friends are trying to dictate the rules of engagement for society. This is a huge problem. That's what I think.
It is what it is. However, in the
Anyway.
modern industry, we're sort of going in the complete opposite direction, and it's honestly doing more harm than good. Truthfully, and this is coming from a female gamer who is supposedly the audience for these new games.
Right.
I would much rather watch paint dry than pay for this shit. or
Concord,
level a
yeah.
warrior to 60 in WoW Classic, which is effectively the same thing. The main content on my
basically,
channel
yeah.
has been centered around Elder Scrolls games, mainly
Right.
Morrowind and Oblivion, which are both almost 2 decades old. And in 2024, I was able to grow a channel from zero to where we are now, because I am not the only person who is so stuck on these old games. I've gone over my personal feelings and reasons why I feel like modern gaming has just forgotten about people like me, in the name of supposedly including me more, but different people have different reasons for sticking to the beloved classics. A recent controversy which most of you have probably heard of was the
Assassin's Creed,
showcase of an Assassin's Creed game that is based in Japan. We have Japanese gamers coming out and saying that they don't get it. It's offensive. There's a petition out there to cancel the release of this game in Japan. And why? Because the game's protagonist is a foreigner that gets to whoop Japanese people up and down the block. Tell me why, in Assassin's Creed 2,
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I could see if I was a Japanese person, I'd probably think that was weird too. As I said with the game, I think that when Assassin's Creed comes out, the story will not even be in the top 10 problems with the game. Because you're going to have obviously like frame dropping issues, computer PC compatibility problems, day one glitches, save file corruption, quests being super linear, like NPCs being able to see you through walls. Like, I'm telling you guys, like, this will not even be in the top 10 of problems when this game comes out, if Star Wars Outlaws is any sort of barometer. Are you going to play it? Absolutely, I'm going to play it. I mean, to be honest, like, I think it's going to be really fucking funny to play as Yasuke and have a giant fucking mace and just smash samurai like fucking like like I don't know, like King Kong or something. It'd be fucking awesome. Yes, absolutely I'm gonna play that. It's not even a question. Yeah, unga bunga, exactly.
have an Italian protagonist in Italy. We have a Native American guy in America
Yeah,
in
of course.
Assassin's Creed 3. We have a French protagonist in France. Why could
Pop
we
music,
not
yeah.
have a Japanese protagonist in Japan? Japanese gamers don't relate to this at all, and some
Sure.
of them have even highlighted other inaccuracies in the game which are disrespectful to their culture and their country, shows a huge lack of research from the developer side, but I guess their opinion doesn't matter because probably a straight man told them to think that way. I feel like it's a real shame that there's this awkwardness, or it can be seen as controversial to express these opinions, because if we're not going to get to talk about this, we
Well,
are
the reason why is because, again, it's the conversations are dominated by people that are deranged. Is that you don't listen to like average and reasoned people, because average and reasoned people usually just get pushed out of the conversation because they don't want to deal with people that are crazy. So you have somebody who gives like a like measured take on something, and people get upset about that because they're not hearing the words they want to hear. And what happens, and this is like a big problem that like I know that I run into, and I think that a lot of other content creators run into as well, is like, bro, I just called a large black man King Kong Jesus. That's not. See, I think that's like a really good example of. This is, I think, like this super good example of what I'm talking about. How like games are afraid to portray things like this. Everybody knows that I'm not calling black people monkeys. That's insane. This is a crazy thing to think. Everybody knows that. But there's these like really weird mores that people have in culture that like everybody is like super afraid of accidentally saying one of these, because everything is being, people are trained to take things in the most like the worst way possible and then interpret them that way, right? It's like people turn super, so it's not even about being soft. It's about people are waiting for you to say something that could create some form of friction. That way, they take it in the most offensive way possible. Nobody's thinking about this. Nobody's thinking like this. Like that's a crazy way to look at it. But I think that this is the example of kind of how like video games and culture and language is like contrived in a way because people are afraid of accidentally saying the wrong thing for some reason. Do you see kind of the way that I'm talking about this? Like, I think this is actually a great example of what I'm talking about how like games are like, they're constantly worried about accidentally stepping into these like mistakes. But the truth is that every normal person knows that that's not what's happening. Why would that happen? That's crazy. That's perfect timing. Yeah. Automatic bad faith. Well, what I'm saying is that like these bad faith people are the ones that are, and I'm not like, I know you're probably just joking around. You think it's funny. But like the issue is that there's enough people that don't think it's funny for it to be an issue. So people are saying, and like they're like people are always walking on eggshells around having conversations around these people because they're worried that like something that they say that's totally innocuous could be turned into something that's obviously really bad. You see what I'm saying? Read other messages. Oh, I don't know. I think that honestly, girls can get drunk and say no, and a guy still try to convince them. Vaporium mentioned. I don't think this person is problematic. Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, that's fine. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with him. Yeah, it seems it's just a chatter. Yeah, that's okay. But like all I'm saying is like that's the joke equals ban. Well, I'm not banning him. I'm just saying like what I'm getting at is that people are constantly conditioned into thinking inside of these like weird social mores. And I think that we have so many of them that like because games are afraid of having that happen, the entire culture of gaming is contrived in a way to not accidentally violate one of these mores. I think that's what happens.
Forever going to continue having
and
this
that was a good
huge
that's an
rift
example,
between gamers
right?
and
The language
developers.
minefield, yeah,
Many
exactly.
failed projects in the future, lots of people losing their jobs
they
over
will.
said failed projects. This brings me to The Elder Scrolls 6. I'm at a point where I don't know if I even want them to go there anymore, because by today's standards, there is just so much that could go wrong. A few months ago, I came across this really spicy...
I mean, I'm kind of like, I never really liked a lot of the old Elder Scrolls games. I always thought they were boring. But like, I thought Starfield was very much like, it was the most aggressively mediocre game I've ever played.
hot take that said this.
Skyrim, the game by Bethesda, is a pro-colonization narrative and is racist.
Now, I did a full response to that video on my TikTok account when it came out, so I will leave it in the description of this video if you want to see that, but in short, I said the depiction does not equal endorsement. I'm seeing that
it's also that, and this is the other issue, and this is what I was talking about before, about how people constantly want to make sure that their media reflects real-world values. So you can't have somebody who's like effectively a conquistador that has any sort of good values. So you have to create characters that are one-dimensional, because the stories and the people, they're afraid of writing a character that's likable and interesting without it being like appealing to like, you know, the wrong group of people. And I think like a really good way to like compare this is like, you can look at the Senator Armstrong, right? From like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. This guy was fucking awesome. And he was charismatic. He said funny shit. He was a badass, but he was a bad guy, right? So like, I think back then it was easier to write villains because people could like understand the nuance. But now when we live in a world where like everything is like intentionally misunderstood in order to like get angry about it, people are too afraid to write a character with nuance.
Starting to have a real problem with media literacy. Like, it's non-existent. So just because a particular topic is discussed in any piece of media, it is suddenly endorsed, it is shown as a good thing, according to these people. This girl gave many examples of depictions of racism in Skyrim, like where you can see the Nords ganging up on a dark elf in Windhelm and harassing her, referring to her race as the Greyskins, which is an attempt at a slur. But lest we forget...
That's what it is. That's exactly right. Like, the game's meant to simulate reality, and people are racist. That's the whole point. Yeah, duh. Like, it's crazy. Like, yeah, obviously. It's a fantasy story, and that's just the way that people... Like, what?
Ladies and gentlemen, that the Dark Elves of Morrowind are not too fond of Outlanders themselves, or Enwas, as they call them. You see, Skyrim is an already incredibly diluted game when it comes to heavy and difficult topics compared to its predecessors. Like, I'm pretty sure that regardless of your race in the game, you may see slight dialogue differences, but you'll still have equal opportunities for progression throughout the game. It doesn't really change your journey much, whereas in Morrowind, based on your race, you'll actually have a different disposition with different races. So I guess you can call that...
And you can see that, like, why do you think they're doing stuff like that? I think a big reason is because it's not... Like, you could say that it's for a design reason, but whenever I see that, I think to myself, this is probably for, like, a cultural reason. You know, like this is some sort of like they don't want to have it to where like the game is reinforcing racism or something like that. Story immersion, yeah, it seems too safe, yeah. I think it is probably an element of both, but I think this is the other problem that a lot of Western studios have had, is that Western studios have lost the trust of the audience to be able to write stories that include characters that are outside of like the norm, that are doing so in an authentic way. So, for example, I think there's a lot of Japanese games and games that are made in Asia that cover topics like this, and they cover things like racism or slavery or something like that, or they have a character that has like an undefined gender, etc. But people don't view it in the same way because there's a sense that that character was created with a creative vision in mind rather than the character being created for the goal of filling a checkbox. And I think that's the difference. And it can actually be the same type of game, but it's just that people in the Western culture simply no longer trust developers now and designers and the companies to make games that are authentic. And so you can have the same thing happen, but the authenticity is just simply not there.
Racism built into the game, but it's just a realistic depiction of how different peoples would react to Outlanders in their homeland. Not only that, Morrowind deals with the very heavy topic of slavery. The player, while having the option to free slaves, can just as easily not help, and in some cases make things worse. In Skyrim, there really isn't an action that you can take that compares to that. In fact, the way in which these racist encounters—
Exactly. This is exactly— she brings up, this is a perfect fucking example. So back in the day, this is a great example from World of Warcraft. In WoW, you used to have an ability called Enslave Demon, and they changed the name to Subjugate Demon. There are little things like that that I call like mining canary problems that don't really mean a lot by themselves, but they're an indicator of what's to come. And do you know what came after that? Dragonflight.
Presented are meant to make you feel sorry for the person being harassed and not the other way around. So if Skyrim, as I've said, is already a more diluted version of events and is still causing such a stir with these people, what can we expect from the next installment of the Elder Scrolls?
It'll be
because
boring.
Unfortunately, these are the kind of people that are being listened to. Should we expect anything? Aren't we better off just replaying Oblivion for the billionth time instead of expecting like a complex and interesting story to come out of
You're not going to have a complex and interesting story come out of any of these development studios because a lot of the people that are part of these studios are boring, middle-class, privileged white people that are not, like, their mental illnesses are not buffs, right? It's like you can pretty much assume Kojima's got a few screws loose, but they make the games more exciting. And I think that there's a lot of developers that have a few screws loose, but it makes the games more exciting. But these people are just like boring like crazy. Yeah, Kojima's crazy and it's good. Yeah, there's other people that are crazy and it's just boring, right? The Kanye effect. Yeah, Kanye West, look at him, right? And so it's like Kanye, somebody said that, you know, Kanye West mind controlled them into stealing a car. And half the people in the comments were like, yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it happened, right? And like, I know half, like 90% of them are joking, but 10% weren't. 10% definitely weren't. Like, I don't know, guys. Is Todd Howard boring or crazy? I don't know. I think that I've always felt that Bethesda games, and this might upset her because she's a big fan of them, I've always thought that they were the most painfully boring games in existence. Like, I just think, I think everything about them is so flaccid. There's no, like, and I felt this way with Oblivion. I never played Morrowind, to be fair, so I don't know that. But, like, with Oblivion, I felt that way, absolutely. It just felt, like, very flaccid and weak. Their best RPG genres? Yeah, no, I understand it. But, like, I think that's why you don't see that happen. So you shouldn't expect them to try to cover complex topics because they're too afraid of making real-world parallels that could be perceived in a way that could be bad. That's why.
next game. I'm also worried about the incessant attempts at monetization after you've already purchased a game,
Oh, yeah.
or if you're paying some sort of subscription. How are they
Starfield,
going to
I think, had
implement
early
their
access.
store into the game?
Yeah.
I don't know about anyone else, but when I go into a
Ooh.
game and I scroll to a page in the title screen where I'm seeing euro signs everywhere, it just takes me out of it. Not to mention how some
It does, and this is something that Yoshi P, he's the main guy for, he's like the creative director or like, you know, main guy, game designer, game manager for Final Fantasy XIV. He even said this explicitly, that he didn't want the store to be in the game because it takes people's immersion out of the game when they see things for real money. I think he's totally fucking right. Absolutely.
companies just take it way too far. Like, Blizzard's greed in adding the
Yeah.
level 60 boost to TBC Classic
There's only 58.
ruined TBC for me and for many others. Now, I know Elder Scrolls 6 isn't going to be an MMO, but they will likely...
I can understand why she says that, because, like, I think there's a level of nostalgia. Because, like, for me, it didn't really ruin Burning Crusade, but it... Like, the WoW token for me, whenever it came out in Classic WoW, it felt to me like it was like, I'm no longer playing Classic WoW now that you have level boosting and you're able to buy WoW tokens. And I just kind of like lost my interest in like continuing to play the game. And obviously wiping in all the war hard modes over and over because somebody can't turn around. Yeah, that was another reason. But it was a confluence of events. It's retail light? Yeah, it is. They missed the leveling as a point? Yeah, Classic WoW was the best MMO and every other expansion below. If Classic WoW is an S, nothing else is even an A.
try to continue monetizing the game long after you've purchased it, and I don't mean overpriced DLC. If the next Elder Scrolls game is just gonna give our beloved franchise a bad name, honestly, I'd rather not have it at all. Keep it a mystery, and I'll just keep playing my old games. And that's it. This is me coming back after 2 months with my boomer takes. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I do apologize for being gone for so long. I couldn't have predicted it this time around, but I'm hopefully here to stay right now. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Be seeing you. Bye.
So I think that she's right about pretty much everything. I do. Like, I'm really glad that I watched this. I'll link it to you guys right now. This is a great video. I've never seen her videos before. Angel Katosh, I think that's how to say it. I don't really know how to pronounce it. No, it was a very good video. And I think really, like, link it. Yeah, there's the video right there. And it's definitely a big thing. Like, what is this? Give me a minute. Chat's so weird. Oh yeah, no, I mean, some people obviously make weird comments, etc. But like, that's really about it. She's very level-headed. Yeah, she does. And you're about the topic of the RPG Outward. No, I haven't. But one of the issues that I've seen happen is she made a video based on Akatosh, a god in Skyrim. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see it now. That makes sense. But yeah. And somebody banned? No, I hate people that spam the V thing, and so I just permaban all of them. Like, I have a very, I have a very easy policy. Do something annoying, be obnoxious, instant perma. That's just the way it is. Yeah, it's just fucking annoying to me. And so, yeah, there you go. But I do think that there's, like, an issue where I think that Western developers do not simply have they don't have the ability to experience escapism, because you have people like that girl talking about like how Skyrim reinforces like colonialism, like this kind of stuff. Where is it?
That said this.
Skyrim, the game by Bethesda, is a pro-colonization narrative and is racist.
Now, I did
Yeah, exactly. And like, so this is the kind of stuff that, people like this listen to. And that's really what the issue is. Wait, they're all confused. Yeah, exactly. And she had a lot of very good takes. Basically, she said it's not a lot of fun to play mentality, which is super respectable. Yeah, well, I think what happens is that people play video games to get away from real life. So when they see video games that are reflecting real life principles or real life like worries, and they can kind of tell, it's like once you see the man behind the machine and you can see that, oh, well, these characters are being added and its interaction is created this way because of like the genders of the characters. I think that really kind of rolls back the curtain and people can see that, and then the escapism is no longer like it's shattered. Yeah, the escapism is gone, right? And I think that's what happens more than anything. Yeah, but why do we listen to retards always complaining about stuff? Well, if it's why do we listen to those people? Oh, the reason why people listen to them is that they're afraid of being called a bad word, and the reason like they don't want to be called racist. And the problem with that is that I don't know about you guys, but like I know I'm not racist. Like I know I'm not. I know I don't hate women. I'm not some kind of like weird like gay hater or something like that. So I have no problem talking about this stuff. And so if people call me these words, like everybody knows it's not true that actually watches the content. So it's just bullshit, right? Nobody takes it seriously. But for a lot of other people, I think that they're very insecure about that and they're afraid of it. And being called these bad words is something that they're like hyper afraid of. So they don't want to take any risks and they do whatever they're told because they don't want to be categorized as this kind of a person. I think that's what happens. You see kind of what I'm saying? Like gay hater? Yeah, like homophobe or like whatever else it is, right? Sad but true. Games become too realistic. It's putting a dampening effect on creativity. Yeah, and I think that like the biggest problem with it is that the dampening effect that's happening on creativity is something that happens as an effect of it's basically it's such a disingenuous reason too. That's I think the problem. It's that everybody knows that this really isn't the reason, but you're pretending like it is and getting mad about it anyway so you can get attention. And I think that's what really frustrates a lot of people. They'll just say it's a dog whistle instead. Oh yeah, no, and that's fine, right? But like all I'm saying is that I think this is one of those issues where a lot of those kinds of games have this problem. Right? Like many games have this problem where it's like I think that the games are constantly being designed in a way that are let me think a good way to put this. They're being designed in a way that makes them reinforce a real world view. They're afraid to be shamed. It's weird psychology. Yeah, I think that people are so afraid to be shamed, they're willing to give up anything and everything that they believe in order to avoid that because of the friction and how upsetting and stressful it is for them. Like, that's really what I think happens more than anything. Oversensitivity is the core issue. Well, it's also the fact that, like, being called something like that can also, like, really damage a person's career or, like, where they are in the like their job or something like that, like where they are in the world, right? I think that's another factor too, of course.